Good evening. You're watching Asia in Review. I'm your host, David Day. And this evening we're going to be talking about the Afghan withdrawal, or pulling out of Afghanistan, if you will, and we'll do an update on that. And to help us, we have Professor Abdul-Karim Khan of Leeward Community College again. And Karim, nice to have you back with us. I appreciate it. Professor Khan, for those of you who perhaps missed our first show, is an expert in this region of the world. He teaches world history and Islamic history. And interestingly, I would say he's not purely an academic. And the reason I say that is, Karim, you actually are a man of the soil from that region of the world. You grew up in Peshawsar, Pakistan, and the interesting thing is that in our prior show, I became so fascinated with your expertise on the politics, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and the challenges that both Afghanistan and Pakistan face. And I know our audience enjoyed the conversation that we had before. And so what we want to do today is kind of talk about kind of an update. Let's bring our audience up to speed, and we'll be focusing a little bit more on the situation in Afghanistan and Pakistan, because in our prior show we talked about some linkages or non-linkages with other countries in the Middle East. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the point of departure for this program, if you've been watching recent developments in the news, is that what has happened is we have just seen the fall of Fallujah Iraq to Al-Qaeda. And so Iraq, not quite the fall of Saigon, but nevertheless, I think fair to say an American heartbreaker given the blood and treasure spent there. And so what we want to do today is from you, Dr. Khan, is learn more about the upcoming U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and we want to find out, do we really have a fall of Saigon with the return of the Taliban? You know, the whole situation to some looks like if we built a sandcastle near the ocean's edge and went away and came back and watched the whole thing just fall back in upon itself. And maybe the place to start this discussion is with the challenge or the current negotiations that are going on between Washington and the Karzai government with respect to some type of security agreement after the post-2014 agreement,
right,
or 2014 withdrawal.
right. But to answer your first question is going to be Saigon. And the answer is no.
The answer is no.
The answer is no.
All right. Well, let's take that question first, because I think our viewers are sitting on the edge of their chair now, and they want to know why. And so let's Mr. Producer, just to help our audience here while we do this, let's pull up, if we could, visual number 6. And this, Karim, this is the classic iconic picture,
right,
of the collapse of Saigon, and you're saying no.
No. And the reason is, within Afghanistan, people are divided to the coming of US and NATO forces, the ousting, the driving the Taliban out of Kabul. The vast majority of the non-Pashtun were against the Taliban anyway.
Okay.
That's one thing. And the same non-Pashtun groups in Afghanistan are not going to welcome the Taliban after the withdrawal of the US forces. They would definitely fight the Taliban taking over.
Do they have the weapons and means to fight?
Within the past 10, 11 years, United States gave a lot of weapons to the Afghan National Army, which is not really an army that United States would have loved to see, to leave it behind. in terms of the training, in terms of the discipline. To create an army, it takes long time. So it's not really a great army to begin with. And it's not really a national army, even though we call it Afghan National Army, ANA.
Was it comprised of the various ethnic groups within
Right,
Afghanistan?
but mostly dominated at the top, particularly by non-Pashtun officers.
Is that a problem?
Big problem. Because the Pashtuns are the #1 ethnic group in terms of population. Unfortunately, in the beginning, that would be November and December 2001, soon after the tragedy of 9/11, when the Bush administration attacked Afghanistan, the #1 blunder they made, they started thinking of every Pashtun, every person living in the South as if they were Taliban.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
the majority of the Taliban came from the Pashtun belt of Afghanistan in South and Southeast. But every Pashtun was not a Taliban.
Okay, hold one second here. Mr. Producer, would you help us with a, maybe let's put up a map here, let's say number 14, if we could. And let's show the audience this, in the red,
And so,
shows the southern areas held
Yes.
by Taliban.
right. And
Okay.
so that southeastern part of Afghanistan and northwestern part of Pakistan, you are talking about closely up to about more than 30 million Pashtuns, the largest ethnic group that live in that area. More than 20,000 of them in Pakistan. Close to about 10 million, sorry. 20 million in Pakistan
Okay.
and
okay.
10 million in Afghanistan.
How does that size compare with the non-Pashtun?
The non-Pashtun, the total population of Afghanistan is not more than 30 million.
So the Pashtun,
Is the
Huge.
dominant, is huge and big dominant group.
well, why? I don't understand. Why won't they be able to just take over after the U.S. forces leave?
For a simple reason, as I said, all Pashtuns are not Taliban. Even though all Taliban are Pashtuns. And if you want to know how the Pashtun look like, you are looking at one of them.
Okay, all right. There you go.
So unfortunately, and that's what I said, the Bush administration made the blunder of thinking all the Pashtuns, whether they were in Afghanistan, southeastern Afghanistan, or across the border in northwestern Pakistan, they thought of them, they were all Taliban. They were not all Taliban. If there was a village and there was one, guy who shot at the US soldiers, they thought the whole village was, Taliban, and so what they did, they bombed the entire village. And so for that one person, they killed close to about 10, 15 men, women, and children. And if you do that anywhere else, but especially in that cultural area, if you kill one person, the whole family turns against you. And that culture lives by its own code. It's called Pashtun Wali.
Eye for an eye.
Pashtun Wali, the code of the Pashtun, in which two things are #1. #1, hospitality. And #2, revenge. You live by these two, cultural characteristic, so to speak, cultural traits. A person is never forgiven. And so if you kill one man, his sons, his brothers, his nephews, his uncles and cousins would turn against you.
So what you're saying is this
So for
lack
the
of understanding has made
Exactly.
it worse.
Unfortunately, nobody corrected it, and the reason was simple. The non-Pashtun people in Afghanistan, they kept that policy going deliberately. Because there was, let's face it, before the coming of Taliban, there was a big civil war.
So
And
this-
when the Taliban came in, they cleared that civil war, drove everybody out from Kabul and other places, occupied 95% of Afghanistan, and imposed a peace in Afghanistan.
which is a good thing.
Honestly, to a lot of people, it looked like the good guys,
Okay.
the Taliban,
Okay.
to the extent that the Bush administration invited them to Crawford, because they could not bring them to White House. He took them to his home and had a dialogue with them, and it's a famous story till 9/11 happened, and there is no question about that the Taliban had given space and place to hide for the Al-Qaeda, terrorist gang. So aside from that existence of the Al-Qaeda within Afghanistan, that did not make every Pashtun, or for that reason, every Afghan person, to be Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is not Afghan thing. It's an Arab, Middle Eastern thing.
Okay, so let's take a side question here because we're still on the fall of Saigon
Right.
issue.
Yes.
But a side question is on Al-Qaeda. Give our audience just a real short update. That's a foreign group.
Yes.
They're not Afghan. They're not Pakistani.
Right. And if any Afghan and Pakistani group or gang has joined them, that is for purely personal business and interest. And unfortunately, having no jobs and no nothing in that country, young men, got recruited in these different gangs. Al-Qaeda was one of them. Although Al-Qaeda is not the dominant top gang,
Okay, let me.
neither in Afghanistan nor in Pakistan.
Let's push the fast forward button. What's the situation, the strength of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan today?
If we could put any strength on it in terms of percentage, as compared to other gangs, the Taliban and non-Taliban groups, and there are a lot of them, I think it's not even 5%.
So within those two countries,
Yes.
Afghanistan and Pakistan,
Right.
Al-Qaeda has been pushed out, wiped out, or reduced significantly.
In fact, they did not exist in Pakistan or Afghanistan. Yes, there were training camps. There were training camps back in 1998. Remember the attack on the Nairobi,
Okay.
East African U.S. embassies in East Africa, and then the attack on USS Cole, and the in the last days, so to speak, of Bill Clinton, he attacked their camps in Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda camps. Bill Clinton administration attacked and drove them out.
Okay, we're going to take a break
Yes.
for a moment, and we'll come back to this. We have more. You're watching the Afghanistan Withdrawal, an update, and I'm your host, David Day. You're watching Asian Review with our special guest, Dr. Abdul-Karim Khan from Leeward Community College. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Horry for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Horry. Mahalo.
We're back. You're watching Asian Review. I'm your host, David Day, and we're talking about the upcoming Afghanistan withdrawal. We want to do an update, and we have a true expert on the countries of Afghanistan and Pakistan, someone who grew up in the tribal areas, actually, in Peshawar, Dr. Abdul-Karim Khan from Leeward Community College. And Karim, right at the break, you were talking about the demise of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. So quick summary, where is that today?
Most of it is now in the Middle East.
Okay, so is it fair to represent that Al-Qaeda was operating in some sanctuaries? They were foreigners, generally speaking, and their operations, Al-Qaeda operations in Afghanistan, have been significantly reduced today.
Very much.
So let's go back to this question of that we started the show earlier. Are we going to see a fall of Saigon type collapse? And
I said
you're
no.
saying no.
Yes.
And we got into a discussion of the different ethnic minorities or groups in Afghanistan. Taliban
Pashtun.
as a part of the Pashtun, but not all.
Not all.
And then the Afghan National Army controlled at the top by non-Pashtun.
Right.
And so what is your analysis as to why we won't see that, that terrible collapse that the U.S. experienced in Vietnam?
For a good reason, as I said before, the Northern Alliance has huge big weaponry now, which is, which dominates the Afghan National Army. It's not going to be like a stampede, leaving around Saigon. What definitely would happen would be with the last US soldier leaving Afghanistan, you would see the rise of Taliban gangs, especially in south and southeast of Afghanistan, in the Pashtun belt, as I said.
So that prediction that you just made
Yes.
is roughly
And that would
1
be
year
in-
from today, right?
After 2014.
Right.
Beginning in 2015, it might increase if there is no agreement, political agreement among the Afghans themselves.
All right.
Whoever replaces Karzai, succeeds Karzai as the president of Afghanistan, that's another issue. If there is an agreement, it may be more peaceful, incorporating or inducting or bringing the Taliban into the mainstream politics, mainstream government, governance, administration. And believe it or not, it's a sad fact that people, even today as we speak, in the southeast of Afghanistan, people trust more a Taliban leader than the Karzai administration backed by the United States blood and treasure.
Well, why is that?
Because
And Mr. Producer, would you put up visual number 1 while we're talking about this? This is Karzai.
yeah,
Why is that?
because Karzai being Pashtun, and personally speaking, although I never met him personally, even though our meeting twice was mismanaged in Kabul.
Okay.
Personally speaking, I believe he's an honest man. He's a national leader, but surrounded by a lot of, I would say, people who do not have the vision that he has of peace and progress for Afghanistan.
And his challenge is to replace
To
himself.
be replaced, yes, because he cannot run for another election. 2 terms, more than enough, constitutionally speaking.
Okay.
So there has to be a replacement of him, and that's another issue. Who would that person be? But back to the old, problem. And so people, when the Taliban rise in the south and southeast, with the United States, U.S. soldiers gone out of the country, withdrawn, you would see these pockets and, patches taken over by Taliban and creating their own parallel administration.
So, Mr. Producer, let's take a look at
Southeastern.
visual number 5 maybe here. So what you're saying is that these Taliban
Right.
are, in your view, unless there's an internal political agreement within Afghanistan,
Yes, within Afghanistan,
they're going to take over.
They're going to take over their own country.
And
the Pashtun country down south,
And so
which is
let's-
Helmand, Kandahar, go up, Jalalabad, Nangarhar.
let's help the audience with that.
So
Let's-
mostly south and southeast
number 13.
Afghanistan.
Number 13, Mr. Producer. Let's see what that.
And that you see, the southeastern Afghanistan, that is the homeland, so to speak.
Okay.
Of Taliban,
So
the birthplace of Taliban.
So after the U.S. forces leave, what you're saying is odds are pretty good that Taliban are going to take over that area in the southern part of Afghanistan.
Yes.
Because that's their home. their
Exactly,
home
and
base.
even today,
Oh,
as we
even
speak,
today?
even today, what is happening is by daytime, is all the American and NATO show, but by nighttime, it's a Taliban show.
boy, it's
Because you have to remember, Taliban are local people. They're not foreigners. They never went away anywhere, nor they would be going anywhere after or before the Americans. These are local native people. Some much more committed ideologically speaking, whatever that ideology is, and we can talk about it, very confused and so beside the ideologically committed people who had worked in the administration in the army of Taliban, who ruled at least for 6 years, effectively, for 6 years Afghanistan, you have the vast majority of the people. Just like in Nazi Germany, every German was not a Nazi, even though every Nazi was a German.
I got you. Okay.
Right? These are local people. And so they got jobs, they work for the Taliban in their army, in their administration, and they're still there.
Let me try this.
And the
on.
tragedy is, as I said, the Taliban leader is more committed and more believed and credible. Then, unfortunately, the regime or the government of Karzai,
Okay.
which created the mess, and all these millions and billions of dollars going into that administration just proved the black hole of corruption. So it never reached to the people. And I'm saying this as a, sort of as a broken record since 2001.
Karim, it does. There are some rather striking parallels between the corruption of the South Vietnamese, the Diem regime,
Yes.
and the rise of the local people that were there in the South that were part of the communist supporters. But what you're saying is that there won't be this brutal collapse
Right.
like Vietnam, because there are the National Army
Right.
is well equipped.
Right.
They are at the top non-Pashtun,
Right.
and then there's a large Pashtun majority of the Pashtuns
Right.
that are not Taliban,
Right.
and the Taliban image
Right.
has been. Are you saying it's been tarnished or damaged? They won't permit them to take over again?
Yet, in the South, their image is fine.
Okay, I understand it, but
In the South.
but
Not in the North.
Okay,
Not in the city of Kabul. However, when they push and they occupy, as I say, much more of the southeast, outside Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan, as they take over the fringes, the frontier, that would create a choke, because you cannot get out of Afghanistan without going into Pakistan.
let's take that. I think that's a very important transition point
Right.
to start talking about the American withdrawal. So, Mr. Producer, let's go to visual number 9 if we could. And this is a simplified map, ladies and gentlemen, and you see there the route through the famous.
Yeah.
You say Khyber, I say Khyber.
Yeah,
You say Tamata.
Khyber Pass.
Khyber Pass.
Yes, Khyber Pass. It's about 9 miles to the west of my home.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
And from there,
But the arrows that you see is not going to be used for U.S. soldiers' withdrawal. The exit of the U.S. soldiers, they are being airlifted. That is the route that would be used to take out the equipments.
number 10, Mr. Producer, if you could.
And so from Kabul through Peshawar, my hometown, to Islamabad or to down south Karachi.
Number 3, Mr. Producer.
And that would be that's the Khyber Pass that you look at it. And so this would be used much more for, and it is being used right now as we speak, by the way. The native equipment, American equipment, is getting out.
Number 9, Mr. Producer.
And so that is happening right now as we speak, although there are always, trouble. Some people come and shoot at the drivers, some people come and they stop the truck drivers, the containers. And so it's not an easy, smooth exit, but still it is happening. It's successful.
So are you saying that there's an American hardware withdrawal?
Right. The
today?
machinery, yes. The machinery as we speak, it is getting out little by little. And so the next whole year, this 2014, they would take as much as they can.
So this number 10, Mr. Producer, again. So this photograph that we're looking at now is an American equipment withdrawing out of Iraq.
Right.
And so this similar scene, what you're saying, Kareem,
but
is going on today.
These are American vehicles.
Right.
Driven by American soldiers.
Correct.
But from Kabul to Karachi, so to speak, from Afghanistan to Pakistan.
Number 9, Mr. Producer, stay with it.
Those are driven, these are huge big trailers.
Okay.
Trucks with containers on top of them. And they are driven by Pakistani drivers.
Why not American soldiers?
Because that would make it very dangerous. This whole area is Taliban infested area.
Okay.
East of the Khyber Pass and west of the Khyber Pass. And as I said, there are a lot of shootings, also at the same time happening. But still, things are moving down south to Karachi, and from Karachi then they're shipped to one or another, native country.
So, Mr. Producer, number 8, this departure of American men and women,
Yes.
the personnel, they're likely to be, or they will be withdrawn by air.
Right, and much more peaceful.
And so we might see something that looks like number 11, Mr. Producer. There, I'm sure they'll use larger transports, but
Yes.
this concept of
C-130, the old C-130 would be the most preferred.
We're going to go to another break now, ladies and gentlemen. We have more with Dr. Khan on the Afghanistan withdrawal, an update. You're watching Asian Review. We're broadcasting right here from Pioneer Plaza live. Stay with us. We'll join you after the break.
Aloha, I'm Maria Kashem of Think Tech Hawaii, and I want to tell you about our Think Tech talk shows. If you didn't know it, Think Tech streams video and audio for all of its shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon, and we replay them all night long on Ustream.tv. Visit ThinkTechHawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on Think Tech. I'm Maria Kashem, and I'll see you there.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel of Think Tech. We have some news for you. In addition to our Think Tech TV show and our Asia in Review show on Olelo 54, as of January 1st, we're adding Community Matters to play also 2 hours a week. Check out thinktechhawaii.com for the specific times of each of these shows. We hope you enjoy all 3. Mahalo, I'm Jay.
We're back. You're watching Asian Review. I'm your host, David Day, and our special guest from Leeward Community College, a man that has grown up in the tribal areas of Peshawsar, Pakistan, Taliban country, a Pashtun.
But not Taliban.
But not Taliban. Doctor.
Even though in my youth, in 1960s and 70s,
You thought about it.
I was with the Taliban, and Taliban simply means students of religious Islamic religion.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe a former Taliban with a low, but not the kind that our audience
Well,
thinks
not
about.
with capital T.
Not with a capital T. All right. Abdul-Karim Khan, professor, Leeward Community College, and let's talk about the leadership change over the Afghanistan border now in Pakistan and how that impacts things. So, Mr. Producer, if we could go first to visual number 2 here, and this is the new
Yes, Nawaz Sharif.
Sharif
Mir
is-
Nawaz Sharif, the new Prime Minister
Of Pakistan.
who
And,
has a huge big party called the Muslim League of his own group, Nawaz Group, and they won massively in Pakistan.
What's the significance of this man now leading Pakistan in terms of the Afghanistan withdrawal? Why is his presence or his leadership important?
Number one, he's a businessman. And all businessmen want peace to run the business.
Okay.
He comes from, not the military. He does not come from the clergy. He comes from a business community. He was always, previously he was 3-time a prime minister, although last time he was ousted by President Musharraf, a military dictator. So he has learned a lot of lessons, very much, popular in Pakistan, especially in the largest province state of Pakistan called the Punjab. He has a huge big mandate from people, democratically elected person.
What is that mandate?
That mandate is to, number one, create security. Not an easy thing.
Okay.
Number two, to give people economic relief.
Not
And I
easy.
would say for some people, getting out of poverty, just having simple drinking water, clean drinking water, and also something to eat. For a lot of people, unfortunately, in Pakistan, that is the daily problem. These power outages that we call blackouts, chronic, for hours and hours, sometimes 20 hours in 24 hours. A person who also believes that Pakistan has a great potential of production, exporting stuff outside, and that's why for quite some time it was always his mantra, trade, not aid, telling United States, give us more trade.
Okay, and that
We
relates.
do not want your aid as much, although aid is most welcome anytime. I believe with this newly democratically elected government, United States can help Pakistan a lot. That would be the defense of democracy against two enemies of democracy, poverty and terrorism. For the first time, I would say United States has a great democratically elected ally in Pakistan with a huge, big, support of Pakistani people to go after these two enemies, which would be it can be enemies of anyone, poverty and terrorism.
And so what you're saying is that this as a businessman,
Yes.
Sharif is looking for building the economy of the country through business and trade. And in
Yes.
order to have business and trade, you've got to have peace and security.
Exactly.
Let's go, Mr. Producer, to photograph number 2A, which we want to juxtapose Sharif and Karzai together. And what's
Right.
the connection there?
Connection between the two of them, whoever replaces Karzai, and let's hope it would be a Pashtun that would be acceptable to the largest group, ethnic group in Afghanistan, to the Pashtuns.
What if it's not?
Then we have a problem.
How serious a problem?
Big.
Civil war?
Not, I mean, immediately, but in the longer run, yes.
Okay.
Possible.
Okay. I'm
Possible.
sorry, I interrupted you.
So if it will, I hope it will be Pashtun. That Pashtun next leader of Karzai, or Karzai number 2, if I can call him like that.
That's fine.
Yeah. That they would have to work with Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And I believe for the first time, I would say, the Afghan government, whoever the leader is, would have for the first time a very clean and huge big prospect of working together with Pakistan and with the help of United States, again for the first time in the history of the region, working with the United States to take care of these two problems, poverty and terrorism.
And in order to do that...
And I believe among all these challenges, there are great opportunities for United States to sincerely work with the two leaders
Okay.
in the two countries
But if
and bring them together.
I understand, and what you're saying makes really good sense. I mean, I think it's an excellent perspective. What I don't understand is, given that
Yes.
desire, and I can see the desire with well, we'll call him Karzai number 2,
Yeah.
the follow-on government,
Right.
and the Sharif government in Pakistan.
Right.
Why does it appear that Karzai is dragging his feet in signing a special forces agreement with the United States? What is the holdup there?
There's a lot there. Number one, he just recently said, or he did not say it openly, but people believe this is what he believes, that this huge big agreement, the bilateral strategic agreement, really belongs to the number 2 person, that his successor, to sign, because he is getting out. That is one.
Okay.
He can sign it and leave it to the next government to deal with it.
But he's really looking for a buy-in by by
Right.
his successor.
That's number one. Number two, and that's what I personally myself favor that theory. He believes that now this is the time for the U.S. soldier to completely get out,
And never come back.
never come back, and not to sign this agreement just like Iraq did. Iraq did not sign the bilateral strategic agreement neither with the Bush nor with the Obama administration.
But,
And the result
surely
was-
Karzai can see that by the Iraqis, by not signing the agreement, the U.S. pulls out and they are not able to hold Al-Qaeda out.
True, but that would be the Iraqi problem. United States can still help the Iraqi government of Prime Minister Maliki, can help them a lot in
a
different
non-mili-
ways, in a non-military.
Non-military,
Yes.
okay.
Intelligence and all that, they can still help them. Similarly, in Afghanistan, this would be the same thing. It would be a fight between Afghan and Afghan, not between American and Afghan, which is good. Number two, from this theory, Karzai theory, so to speak, if I can call it
Fine,
that way,
okay, fine.
that to tell the American to completely get out and leave this country to the Afghans to solve their own problem. And I personally believe they can do that. They can do that. This would bring Afghanistan, or the number 2, the successor of Karzai, on the same page with 3 to 4 different people, countries, and leaders on the same page, who also do not want US forces anymore on the Afghan soil. Number 1, Iran.
Okay.
Karzai would be on the same page with the Iranians not having US forces in Afghanistan. Number 2, the Pakistani leadership would also be very happy with the last American soldier having left Afghanistan by December 31st, 2014. You have the eastern neighbor and the western neighbor, and the leadership in those two countries agreed with Karzai not to leave, not to keep any American or native soldiers in Afghanistan. Next, you have China. The Chinese also do not want to have the US soldiers who would not be fighting anymore, but sitting here and there in Bagram,
Okay.
you know, and other places. And unfortunately, with the, with the new, the NSA, thing going up, and the new reputation that the never say anything agency is getting, the Snowden things coming out, and so I believe that would make the Chinese a lot of, more worried what the Americans are capable of if they're sitting in your backyard and watching, So China, Iran, Pakistan, the immediate neighbors of Afghanistan do not want to have any US and foreign soldiers inside Afghanistan. That would be very helpful for Karzai, not to have any American soldier and leave the fight to the Afghans if there's going to be any fight. That would definitely make the peace among the Afghans more prospective.
But that,
If there is any civil war, for example, I don't want to take it to that far to have an all-out, immediate civil war. I believe before they reach a civil war, there would be some sort of agreement among them. However, there would be a lot of damage. When any agreement with the Taliban, there would be damage to the civil rights of the people, women's rights. These would be definitely the first casualties.
Another casualty that I want to talk with you about, how it factors into the whole.
But one thing for sure, there would not be Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan.
The one thing I want to talk with you about after the break here is how the whole issue of drones has fit into the perspective of the Afghans and the Pakistanis in terms of their future relations, throwing off the U.S. security blanket, if you will, and how that works. But we'll do that after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Asian Review, the Afghanistan Withdrawal and Update with Professor Abdul-Karim Khan of Leeward Community College. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Aloha. I'm Nicole Horry for Think Tech.
I'm
For
good.
nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone number 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Horry. Mahalo.
We're talking with Professor Abdul-Karim Khan of Leeward Community College, a Pashtun, growing up in the tribal areas of Pakistan. And we were talking right before the break, Karim, about the attitude of the Karzai government and now the Sharif government in Pakistan about getting rid of every last American soldier. And I think what you're saying is that's one of the reasons, not all of them, but one of the reasons why Karzai is dragging his feet on this special agreement. It's the
bilateral,
the BS agreement,
right? The bilateral strategic agreement.
All right, and so in this, part and parcel of what you're saying with all American forces out, is you're not saying that these two leaders are looking for complete cutoff of relations with the
No
United
way.
States.
No, they cannot live without United States.
There is an aid and economic development and
Yes.
assistance,
Right.
doing things with American money that the common people can see and appreciate.
Yes.
That's part and parcel of this.
Right.
Okay.
Which unfortunately never happened in the past 10 years,
And but the piece that,
as much as it should have. Yes.
you're right. The piece that we want to talk about now to kind of wind up this is I don't think most Americans really understand or appreciate the impact of the use of drones in Pakistan and Afghanistan and how that has affected. And we just have a couple minutes left here, but I help us with an understanding of their perspective on this.
Talk to any Pakistani, whether inside the government or outside the government, whether pro-American or non-pro-American or anti-American for that matter, would tell you that yes, drone did succeed in taking some of the number 2 leaders of Al-Qaeda and Taliban inside Pakistan. But that, the utility of the drone is the thing of the past.
Why do you say that?
Because recently, in the past 3 years, I would say, or 4 years, drones started in 2004, March, April, May 2004. And then, decrease and then increase, and now, since after the Obama administration came in, it increased by many folds. Unfortunately, it has killed more innocent people than crooks.
Big collateral damage.
Huge, big. And so that it has infuriated a lot of peaceful people. And those who were killed, to be honest with you, so far I'm concerned, they were not really that much functional.
They were what? Say again?
They were not functional.
Okay.
The Al-Qaeda or Taliban leaders that were killed were not really a huge, big factor in the fight between the Afghan Taliban and the US and the NATO soldiers in Afghanistan. Yes, there was command and communication, help, moral and material from the other side, from Pakistan, and that went down with the drones. No question about it. The drone did achieve its target, whatever the killing of some leaders, and it happened.
30 seconds.
Okay, they are no longer good, these drones. They have created a huge, big opposition inside Pakistan. The government has been telling the Americans, stop this. It's not good for the Americans, it's not good for the country, nor the state of Pakistan, nor the rulers of Pakistan. And hopefully with those drones decreased and the American soldiers being out of Afghanistan, you would see the coming together of Pakistan and Afghanistan much more. I believe in peace, and definitely United States has a huge big stake in it, and it would definitely help them.
Karim, I want to thank you for joining us again here
My
on
pleasure.
Asian Review. Your insight is just fascinating, and expertise in this area of the world.
Thank you.
And we will have you back again to help us with this American withdrawal out of Afghanistan from time to time.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have right now. You've been watching Asian Review. I'm your host, David Day. Join us again next week. Please have a safe drive home.